So next thing, we've been talking about what makes an ordinance or a law or a policy or a restriction on speech, what makes it unconstitutional. And you can see there are many different ways that, that a restriction on speech can be determined to be unconstitutional. And so how do we challenge an unconstitutional policy? And so the first thing that I have on the list is sometimes we get wind of the fact that there's a policy that's being considered by the local government, and we want to make sure that they don't pass an unconstitutional policy. And so we put on our I support free speech stickers, and we file into the city council chambers, and then we hear all kinds of backpedaling. Oh no, we were never going to do anything that would affect your free speech rights. And so political opposition can be effective, you know, if you're in a position where you find out that there's something going on that is going to cause a problem. And the next thing is, if there's a policy that is being handled, or if there's an ordinance or a law that appears to be unconstitutional, what we can do is contact the city officials to try to get assurances from them that they understand that the way they have their ordinance written, you know, it's unconstitutional, they can't enforce it against us. And, you know, or that there's a policy, a police officer came and interfered with one of our street witnesses, and so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And that is really the largest part of my ministry, at least in terms of dealing with actual conflicts and controversies that come up, is I'll have somebody contact me and say, we've been told by the city that we can't go and, you know, preach on the street, we can't go and pass out tracts in the park, we can't do this, we can't do that. And sometimes it was just some police officer who you know, said you can't do this here because somebody complained, but there wasn't even, you know, an ordinance that addressed it. And other times the city ordinance will have been drafted in a very poor way, and the way it's drafted, it looks like it is outlawing something that the city doesn't have the right to outlaw. And so, you know, when that happens, I will contact the city officials and try to reason with them, and usually it's just a matter of educating them, showing them from the case law, you know, what the Constitution requires, and, you know, that their policy is unconstitutional. And usually they will agree, they'll give assurances that they won't do that, and the problem is solved. I like to get from them something in writing, if possible, to you know, to show that is what the result was, and so that when we go back out there, or when my client goes back out there to pass out tracts again or to preach again, and they get confronted again, it's very helpful to have an email from the city attorney or a letter from the mayor's office, or whatever the case may be able to show to the police officer, we've already addressed this with their superiors, and, you know, this is the result. So we have a, for example, here's a memorandum from the Daytona Beach Police Department confirming that the pedestrian bridge over Highway 92 by the racetrack is city property, and the landings are dedicated to the public. Therefore, the bridge and the landings must be treated like public sidewalks. So we had conflicts there where we went out and we held signs and preached and passed out tracts in the overpass bridge and on the walkways at the bottom, and the racetrack people didn't like it, and so they called the police, and the police said, well, we've got a complaint, we've got to kick you out of here. And there was, we said, well, this is public property, and they said, the police officer said, well, the people from the racetrack are telling us that it's their private property, it's not public, and so we're going to enforce their rules. And so we went and did the research and contacted the city and ended up with the city attorney writing this memorandum to the police department to confirm that it's public property. And if it was private property, they could have excluded us there. They would have been right. But, so now every time we go back there, we carry these with us, and if there's ever any question about it, then we have that. I've got an email from the county attorney's office confirming that the pedestrian overpass bridge, which is one of the places that we'll go this afternoon, over there at by the Ocean Center and the Ocean Walk shops in Daytona Beach, that is owned by the county of Volusia, and that is a place where we have our First Amendment rights, and we can distribute our literature up there. Every once in a while we get a new security guard from the Ocean Walks place that comes out and tells us you can't do this here, and I show them yes we can. We even have an email from the county, well, I think you're wrong, and so look, I'm not going to argue with you, why don't you call the police? They'll come and tell you the same thing I did. And that's what happens. They call the police comes out, we show them the email, and the police tell the security guard, well, looks like they have a right to be here. And so then it's solved for a period of time. There was an issue in Orlando where our guys that go down to Church Street, and I guess somebody from code enforcement was telling them they had to have a permit, and so I wrote to the city attorney and told her that our understanding is that doesn't apply to us, we don't need a permit. She sent us back an email, your clients do not need a permit in the downtown district. So I've got my question and her answer in an email, and there was a time where that was still an active controversy, so the guys had that with them and could show how that's going. So that's a very effective way of dealing with these problems. Sometimes, unfortunately, what happens is there's a conflict at the scene, and if it wasn't anticipated, then we end up getting shut down for that night or whatever, and then we contact city officials, as soon as they're open for business, and we deal with the issues, and then from that point going forward, usually we have no problem. Sometimes we still have problems repeatedly, but it's been, for the most part, very effective, and usually, they're reasonable to work with. At least the people at the very top usually have enough understanding that, and they understand the potential liability that the city has, and so, they want to do the right thing. Another thing that you can do, if we can't get the issue resolved, is you can file a lawsuit to declare the policy unconstitutional. Another way to deal with the problem is go ahead and exercise your right to evangelize until you're ordered to stop, and then file lawsuit. Or not, we can just go out and do something until there's some improper interference by the police or the government, and I'll later in the program we have a section specifically about dealing with police, and there are certain things that you should do every time in order to to deal with that and preserve the issue. Another thing you can do is go ahead and evangelize, and they order you to stop, and you say, you don't have the right to make me stop, I'm not going to stop, and let them arrest you. And then you can defend that charge, and then if you're successful in defending the charge, then you can bring a lawsuit. It is not necessary, in order to have a claim against the police or against the city, it is not necessary to be arrested. If the police violate your rights by ordering you to stop and telling you, if you don't stop, we're going to arrest you, then at that point you can stop and not be arrested, and you've got everything you need to present a claim against the city. So there's no extra benefit that you get by being arrested, and I'll talk about that a little more later. I don't recommend getting arrested. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good witness. I know we have some brethren out there that view it as a badge of honor. It's not, and so no need to do that.